Welcome to eCME Today, an ongoing dialogue on the issues and trends reshaping CME. I'm Bill Reinstein, CEO of Accela Communications, a leading provider of interactive platform and services to CME producers. Today I'm thrilled to be joined by Frank Britt, General Manager, U.S. Education Programs for Pri-Med, a leading provider of medical education solutions for healthcare professionals. With eCME Today, we aim to provide you with a concise and thought-provoking discussion on the trends, issues, and challenges we all face as members of the eCME community. Just a note that if you have questions for either Frank or myself, please click on the Ask a Question button below and you'll receive a response shortly. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you very much.
It's great to have you here today. You know, Pri-Med has been an expert in the field of CME for over a decade now, and clearly there's been tremendous shifting in the landscape of the CME universe over that time. I wonder if you can share with us, in the context of the current landscape, some of your thoughts about the role of eCME.
Well, I think the biggest change in CME in general in the last decade has really been the emergence of a physician as a new kind of learner. I think the traditional habits of a physician learning in a didactic live setting is still important to the overall experience, but it's insufficient. And so fortunately, the emergence of new media alternatives has really helped serve as an enabler, an accelerator of a new model of continuing medical education, where eCME is increasingly the foundation of that experience. I think it's fair to say that in the 21st century, we're all fundamentally in the content business, and one of our priorities is to repurpose content in a way that works right for the physician. That means the right content at the right place at the right time. We also recognize that physicians, like all of us, have busy lives. They have an integrated life that they need to live both professionally and personally. And so what eCME allows us to do is to respond best to that multi-channel learner who has a diverse set of needs to learn when they need it and how they need it.
That becomes kind of a format for everyone approach, and I think we see that format for everyone in all forms of adult learning, not just in CME, but certainly even more pronounced in CME. In your experience, how does interactive CME align with how adults learn?
Well, I think it's actually increasingly the core. One of the core principles that drives our business is this notion of adult learning. And we know that adult learners have different habits than the traditional learning practices that we as kids had. And the core to that is interactivity. And so what we've tried to do is to work with leading providers that can help enable that kind of interactivity in a way that works best for the physician as well as working well for us as the provider. So obviously you folks are leaders in your domain as well as it relates to eCME. We'd love your thoughts on what do you see as important and how do you see that landscape evolving?
You know, I think one of the key things that we see in the interactive realm is the E word, engagement. And when we look at engagement, we talk about that in all forms of interactive media, not just in CME, whether it's in the B2C world, the B2B world, or, of course, in CME. And I think when we talk about engagement and when that's our goal, the first thing that we need to think about is entertainment. And we're not talking about Hollywood. We're not looking to have our adult learners here falling off their chairs laughing, and we're not trying to keep them at the edge of their seat waiting for a storyline to resolve itself. But it is important to us to remember that in order to engage that learner, we do need to entertain them, and we can do that in a number of different ways. I think one of the things that we need to think about is that we are in the realm of multimedia. And that is not only video and audio, but it's also the animations, sometimes very sophisticated medical animations, to really drive a point home. And it's about what do you do with that media? How do you make that dynamic within the player environment? Not only so that we can retain your attention, but also so that we can underscore the things that we're trying to have you learn. So I think that's important. I think that, you know, similar to the kinds of things that you do in some of the face-to-face programs that a company like Pri-Med runs, where you use ARS, you've got folks in that audience and you're trying to engage them and you're trying to elicit response from them. Obviously, we can do the same thing in the interactive realm. And not only, again, does that serve to engage that viewer, but it also gives us some really great data about what did that physician or healthcare professional understand about a topic or disease state as they started a program, as they got midway through, as they got near the end. So very important. Also, we can think about similar to interactive DVDs where you, the viewer, have some control over your navigational experience. We can do the same with things like dynamic branching, allowing you choice points, maybe in a case-based environment, where you might go down one road, I might go down another. And again, we're giving choice to the viewer and simultaneously understanding and gaining more data about that user as well.
So it sounds like the world is a more robust one, but it also sounds correspondingly it could be more complex. I know as a provider of these services, one of the issues we grapple with is not just how to deliver the right experience, but how to measure the effectiveness and the efficiency and make sure that we are, in fact, addressing their needs. Can you talk a little bit about the data capture mechanism and the reporting and how that infrastructure enables the kind of solutions we're talking about?
Sure. I mean, it is. It's all about data, and it's been all about data from the early days of the web. You know, the promises that we can measure everything, we can report on everything. And clearly in this realm, similar to some of the things I just mentioned, you know, it actually, if we take a step back, in the old days, you know, where we sent out DVDs to physicians, you know, it was about reporting on how many DVDs were sent out by the 1,000. And really, it was only measurable in terms of how many of those healthcare professionals then, through one mode or another, participated in a post-test so that we could gain understanding of their knowledge, and obviously they could get credit. These days it is about measuring overall engagement time with that program, breaking that down even into the individual segments that healthcare professional viewed, looking at the ARS questions that we talked about. How did you answer certain questions, and at what point in the program did you answer certain questions, in what manner? Looking at those choice points, you know, what parts of the program did you choose to go down? Even things like what search terms did you search on, or other things did you click on? So it truly is, you know, a lot of data, and actually kind of turning that back on you, I'm curious about something that it's our job at a company like Accela Communications to enable the collection of that type of data, but data on its own obviously is useless. So it's really about how do we take that data, turn it into useful information, and then how does someone like you then turn that into meaningful value for your client? And so I'm interested in how a company like Pri-Med takes that data, and how do you leverage it?
Well, I think that the imperative for solid, if not superior analytics has never been greater for us, because in the traditional model, the online experience was part of the service experience. But increasingly, the products we bring to market are actually e-enabled products. And so for us, we have a very aggressive financial orientation to what we're doing, because we need to, because we're investing increasing amounts of capital towards the online experience for the physician. And so for us, having the right toolkits, having the right analytic infrastructure, having the ability to measure with the right level of granularity what we deliver today, and also what we're not delivering. You know, there's an ongoing product development aspect to this experience where we have to continue to identify gaps in learners, and if we're just looking at information in a passive context, it's insufficient. So we need tools and we need enablement that allows us to deliver a superior experience, measure that experience, identify gaps, and helps enable the next generation of solutions that we know we need to best respond to physicians.
Frank, that's great. I really have enjoyed our discussion today, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today. If you'd like more information on either Accela Communications or Pri-Med, please click on the Resources button below. I hope you'll join us for another edition of eCME Today, Issues and Trends Reshaping CME.